Back with another quick video. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Right, Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, and Yahushai being the name of His only begotten Son, who the world will call Jesus Christ. Right, Shalom to all the Atazawam Akim, Walkwathim, the brothers and the sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. That's in His truth. That's in His thing in truth and in sincerity. And as you see by the right by the title of the video, it's going into "You're not the only one battling." I believe that's what I titled it. All right, you're not the only one battling. And this video is to remind you that whatever you're going through, you're not the only one that's going through it. All right, every brother and sister, if you want this truth in some way, shape, or form, 9 times out of 10, you catch it. I'm gonna say 8 times, right? 8 times out of 10, you catch in some form of hell, whether it's major or whether it's minute. Some brothers you catch in hell, and sisters, you catch hell, but you're so immune to it, don't even feel like it's hell. It's kind of, you made it a part of your everyday life. And shalom to everybody as well that's in the chat. Shalom, Kings. Brother Don Israel, right? The brother Yadah, right? Bashim Yadah Hamashiach. Right, shalom, Kings. Nonetheless, let's get to the first precept, 1 Peter 3:16. All right, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse number 16. Again, this is a reminder to remind you that whatever you're going through, remember that the brother right next to you through the Spirit is going through something as well. All right, 1 Peter 3 and verse 16. I'm going to start at 16. It says, having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as of evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Hamashiach. Verse 17. For it is better, if the will of God be so, that ye suffer for well-doing than for evil-doing. So when we read 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 17, people, they suffer, right? People in the world, they suffer, they go through what they go through. Us in the truth, we go through what we go through. No matter what, if you in the world or if you in the truth, the Most High has man to suffer. We in this flesh, subject unto sin. We work these hard jobs. And the truth or not, Jake, you suffer. Now the Most High, when you read in the Spirit, He kind of give you 2 options. You can either suffer in the truth and reap a beautiful reward in a lot of rain, or you can suffer in this world and you reap destruction and hellfire. And obviously, a man with wisdom, with common sense, he will want to suffer for well-doings. I'm going to read that again, verse 17. It says, for it is better, if the will of God be so, that ye suffer for well-doing than for evil-doing. Again, you're going to suffer regardless, but it's better if you suffer for well-doing. Why? Because it's a reward at the end. And again, you're not the only one that's suffering. All right, brothers that's on this live right now, in some way, shape, or form, you may be going through something. All right, any sister throughout the 4 corners of the earth and this thing, she's going through something. Right, and even we read the account, let's go to, actually, before we get that, let's go to the next chapter, right? 1 Peter 4 and 17. All right, 1 Peter 4 and 17. I want to jump the gun. It says, I'm sorry, that's 16. 1 Peter 4 and 16. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glory or glorify God on his behalf. And simply, a Christian is one that follows Christ. So if you follow Christ, and you see brothers on these videos that's doing the work of the Lord, and you see how they follow Christ, you see how they follow the Most High, best believe that each and every one of us, in some way, shape, or form, we're in the flesh, meaning we suffer, we sin, we go off. And you don't want to beat yourself up on that, but rather you want to lean on the mercy of the Most High and realize that whatever you're going through, you can most definitely overcome it, and you're not the only one that's going through. Now let's go to 1 Kings, right? Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse number 10. All right, 1 Kings 19 and verse. It's going to be extremely fast. I got to get back on the plantation. But nonetheless, it's just a quick, reminder video through the Spirit. So this 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse number 10, and it reads, right? It reads, and he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord, God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down their altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I, am only left, and they seek my life to take it away. And this is Elijah speaking through the Spirit. Now, a lot of brothers and sisters, you may be familiar with this count, right? With Elijah. The 1 Kings, the 19th chapter. Nonetheless, it's a very beautiful chapter to always refresh your memory on, because it gives comfort on, and it reminds you how you're not the only one that's going through something. When you read 1 Kings 19, Elijah kind of not reflects, but he's kind of expressing himself on how he feels that he's the last, prophet left. Jezebel, she kind of killed all the prophets, all hell breaking loose. And in his mind, he thinks that he's the only one left. And you may think like that through the Spirit. All the hell you catch, you feel like no one can really relate. Nobody's going as much as I'm going through, and these different things, right? Verse 11, it says, and he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by a great and strong wind, rent the mountains, and break in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. All right, jumping down to verse number, I'm going to jump down to verse number 18. It says, yet I have left me. This was the most, actually, I'm going to jump to verse 17, right? Jump down to verse 17. So again, Elijah in his mindset, he's thinking he's the only brother left, right? Verse 17, and it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword, right, of Ahaziel shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth from the sword shall Jehu, of the sword of Jehu, shall Elisha slay. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed them. So the Most High said, through all the affliction that Elijah was catching, he preserved 7,000 men that was catching hell right with him that he never even knew about. And that can be you in the Spirit. You may think that you catch this great amount of hell and, again, nobody can relate. You think, you isolated, it's just you. But hey, remember, the Lord, when it came to Elijah, the Lord had 7,000 men that was in the same position as him that he never even knew about. When you keep reading on this account, he actually found those brothers, and they kind of, got together through the Spirit, right? He met, got up with the brother Obadiah, things of that nature. And again, that can be you in the Spirit, but you want to realize that whatever you're going through, somebody else, another brother, another sister's going through the exact same thing, and maybe even worse. And that's what brotherhood and sisterhood is for you to come and realize that that we need the Lord. Let's get that in John. Let's go to John 11, right? We read John 11, we read about Lazarus, right? And how he kind of gave up the ghost, and how they cried and wept together. And as they, actually, let's just read it. I don't want to paraphrase too much, but this is John chapter 11 and verse number 18. And it says, right, John 11 and 18. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off, and many other Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother, because Lazarus was Martha and Mary's brother. They all siblings. Jumping down, this whole thing is beautiful. I'm gonna jump down to verse 36. I'm gonna jump down to verse 34. And said, where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Yahushua wept. So as you see, when you read verse 18, you have the Jews, they came and they comforted Mary and Martha, because how sorrowful they were for their brother giving up the ghost. So you have Mary and Martha and the Jews, they kind of weeping together, leaning upon one another. And then you jump down at verse 35. Yahushua, he was a part of that. When the Lord seen the emotions that his flock was going through, that his loved ones was going through, Mary and Martha and the rest of Israel that was around them, he even began to cry and weep. Verse 36, then said the Jews, behold, how he loved him. And some of them said, could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man could have not, could not have died? Jumping down to verse number, get straight to the point. Jumping down to verse 41. It says they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Yahushua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when thus had he spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he came. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave cloths, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Yahushua saith unto them, loose him and let him go. Then Mary and the Jews which came to Mary, many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Yahushua did, believed on him. And the point that I want to get out of this is that when all hell broke loose, when Lazarus gave up the ghost, not only that Mary and Martha cried and sorrow, they had people to sorrow with, because they understood Ecclesiastes 4:9, 2 are better than one. They were able to carry their weight and give it to that brother and that sister to sup and sorrow with them. And Yahushua word, see, he was in the midst of them. And after the Lord, he not healed Lazarus, but brought him back to life, they believed and they rejoiced. So whatever you're going through, again, understand that somebody else is going through the same thing. If you sorrowing, another brother is sorrowing right with you. Sister, if you sorrowing, another sister is sorrowing right with you. And guess we have the Lord to tie everybody in as one, to realize that we all we got in this thing and we all we need. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 4:9, the classic. Or Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse number 9, the classic. All right, let me get there real quick. It's the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse number 9. And it reads, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to lift him up or to help him up. So the Most High said again, two are better than one. And if you only by yourself, the Lord said, woe to him that is alone, because when he falls, he won't have another to lift him up. And if you feel like you alone, let's go back to the isolation spirit. If you feel like you alone, you feel like you're the only one, you feel like, no one can relate. Remember, somebody in Israel is either going through worse and enduring, or they right where you at. All right, let's go to Galatians 6:1. That's why the Lord said this in Galatians, the 6th chapter. I'm gonna go back to that in Ecclesiastes, but I do want to go to Galatians real quick. All right, get these last few precepts. Again, like I said, it's gonna be an extremely fast video before I get back on the plantation. But this is the book of Galatians, chapter 6, and verse number 1. It says, brethren, if any man be taken in the fold, yea, which are spiritual, restore such and one in the spirit. That goes back to Ecclesiastes, the 4th chapter. Two are better than one, for if the one fall, you have another one to pick him up. Right? It says, reading on, yea, which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law for Mashiach. The Lord said, okay, just, bear your own burden and sorrow in your own burden. No, the Most High said, bear ye one another's burdens. Know what you go through and consider what the next brother may be going through as well. And through the spirit and power of the Most High, y'all, use each other to come back up. You sisters, y'all use each other to come back up. All right, rejuvenate and get both you guys a spirit right to continue serving the Most High. Because once you realize that someone is going through the same thing that you're going through, then with that, y'all both have an opportunity, right, to lean on the Lord and realize we can't come back up unless the Lord is in the midst of us through the Spirit. Let's go back to Ecclesiastes 4 and read verse 10. All right. Ecclesiastes 4 and 10, it says, "For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heats, but woe unto him that is alone. And if one prevail against them," right, it's like, "but if one prevail against them, two shall withstand him, and a three for a cord is not easily broken." Right, even Yahweh Shah, he had the 12 with him. And when the Lord kind of, gave up the ghost and resurrected unto everlasting life, each member of the 12, we read the Acts of the Apostles, and you read these different epistles, you see how each member of the 12, they caught hell in their own fashion, in their own way. But what did they do? They always leaned upon the brotherhood. They always considered one another. They always visited the churches. They always got up with one another, and they realized that they couldn't overcome, least they had one another, and namely, they had the Lord on their side. And I'm gonna close out with this precept, Sirach. I guess Sirach 43 and verse number 30. All right, Sirach 43 and 30. So it says, "When ye glorify the Lord, exalt him as much as he can, for even yet will he far exceed. And when ye exalt him, put forth all your strength, and be not weary, for you can never go far enough." Right? And no man or woman can never go far enough when it comes to serving the Most High God, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Most High one that was edifying. Again, it was an extremely quick video. Just to remind you that you're not the only one battling. Somebody else in Israel, again, is going through the same thing and or worse. So keep fighting Israel and do all things for the elect's sake. And remember that the Lord is always on your side as long as you put your trust in them and put your faith in them. With that, I'm going to say, Kum Yashala, Shalom.